Hello guys, me again Aswat, and this time I'm going to review the Condor Heroes, Legend of the Galans. This is a recent remake of this story. This story is very classic in Chinese law. Actually, I saw them in Hong Kong TV shows, TVB. They always focus on this um, long romantic saga, which have also kung fu. And this time is made by the one of the greatest Hong Kong's film director, Sui Ha. And I want to be honest with you, unfortunately, this movie is not that good. And I will tell you why. But first, I want to tell you the summary of this movie. The summary of this movie is that it's actually a romantic movie that is about the love of a Mongol. It's about Mongol and Chinese romantics. No, they are at one time during the Chinese history, the Mongols and the Chinese dynasty have problem, have war and conflict. So the story is like a form of like two people from two sides of the border, one different cultures, they fall in love. But like I said, this is like a very long romantic saga. That's why there's a lot of TV shows. I've been watching Condor Legends since I was in the 1980s. That's how old this series is on TV, on TVB and whatnot. Okay, why did I say it's a bad one? Because I say it's a bad one. You cannot compress all of that saga in just a 2-hour movie. So that's one of the problem. Second problem, Sui Hang, even though he's a great director, but he was a great director during the Hong Kong period where Hong Kong was under British and not China. So the moment the China take over, there's a lot of censorship, there's a lot of government interference in films, and that's the honest truth. But you cannot deny, even though the during the Hong Kong period, the Chinese film really got the freedom to do anything, and that after the Chinese control, there's a lot of censorship. This movie, I have to note that surprisingly, they allowed the use of Mongol language. I know, and they actually have the script in Mongol, and then they mix with Mandarin, of course, because that was a very strange decision. Because Chinese movie, they tend to push the China's government agenda, which is like all Mandarin. So the film started being in Mandarin and whatnot. But because there is also, I think, the government involvement here, they want to show they are open to Mongols, Mongolia, and whatnot. So they try to put too much focus on the Mongolian history. Even some of the superhero that you see here on the top, they don't appear in the movie as a main character. The main character is this one guy. There's one villain, and there's one girl. Two girl actually. There's a cross cross lovers actually, cross triangle lovers. But most of the fighting, there's only one this guy, and there was one villain. The other villain is okay, so. Like I said, the focus here is not so much on the fighting. There are great fighting scenes, but the story is a bit weak. It's a big, what do you call it, down. Because, like I say, it's the most Chinese involvement because the Chinese government want to make amends to Mongolia to show they are very open to Mongolian culture and Mongolian, rich culture of martial arts and whatnot. So they highlight all of this kind of superhero in the. There is a segment in this film. They highlight all these Mongolian superheroes now. But yet the weird thing is when you highlight something in a movie, they tend to appear in the movie. No, they highlight it and then just forget about it. That's like I'm thinking like, oh, the focus. Then I figure out why did they push that? Oh, they want to push that, oh, Mongolian culture. And I know the movie had a lot of censorship and a lot of rewrites because once the story ended, the credit roll, there are actually cut scenes from a different story inside the end credits. So the end credit they have like fighting scenes and whatnot, but they were not inside the actual movie. It appears that they shot this movie differently, but then the Chinese government censored it and then want them to change certain things in the script. So it became a very China CCP government agenda movie with only, I would say, only three great fighting scenes. The first one in the riverbank was good with a ninja, and then the final scene. The third one somewhere in the middle, but I don't consider it like that interesting in the end because you once you realize, oh, there is some sort of story missing in here. And then there was a middle part in the camp, in the Mongolian camp. Like I said, they showcase like history of the Mongolian heroes and whatnot. That doesn't make any sense, because if you show the highlight, oh, this is the heroes of the Mongolian, you say, wow, they are great, right? But they don't play any role in the film story. So I said, then I realized, when I go back, why I was asking myself, why is this kind of movie happening? It's a Chinese CCP agenda. They just want to show they are kind to Mongolia. You know that because they actually include Mongolian language inside this film, and that's rarely happened in Chinese production under the China government. They only use Mandarin, so that's very strange inclusion. And then you was thinking, okay, that's a proposed propaganda kind of thing. And the ending was really a bit weird because the ending they had a fighting with the bad guy, and then it started off their fighting with the Mongol, with a bad guy who is trying to attack the Mongolian horde. After they defeated the bad guy, they fight with the horde. They fight with the Mongolian. I mean, they are very confusing thing. I don't know. The final battle was very confusing because you don't know which side is the hero on, and the love story is really not that great. I think that's why I said that you cannot put squeeze all of that story, the Condor Legends, which is like if you follow the series, it's so fun. I remember watching them on RTM2 on the local TV that shows the Chinese stories, and my mom loved it. But when you squeeze all of that inside just a 2 hour movie, it becomes like a propaganda wash of kind of censorship. And I read after I watched this movie, I read the director, and then they asked him interview with the director, and then they ask him about censorship. He has to say he has to follow the censorship. He's in the Chinese government, so he have to kowtow to them to make movies. You have to follow the rules and regulation. So that's kind of sad in the end because Sui Hang is a super director, superior than the Hollywood director. Yeah, his film, if I'm not mistaken, was Dragon Inn, which is until today is still my favorite film, kung fu film that I can watch again and again. And that is so much better than this. I don't know, this piece of rubbish cinema lah to me, because you don't get the story, and then you get all this propaganda, and you gonna get like 2 or 3 fighting scenes. I'm disappointed actually. Even though the fighting scene is good, but if you put that in the story, it's just like 2% or 5% out of the whole movie. Not worth it. So my score for this movie, unfortunately, because I hate giving Sui Hawk film a bad score, but this movie get a 4 out of 10. 4, and I could go lower. I could go to 3. Because I really don't like this kind of propaganda crap. Nothing here will be remembered. Better go and watch the TVB series. Okay, guys.